हाय फ्रेंड्स, हमने इसका पहले ये भी कंप्लीट कर लिया था, द आइडिया ऑफ नेशनल इनकम या इंट्रोडक्शन के बारे में हम डिस्कस कर रहे थे इस चैप्टर में, इंडियन इकोनॉमी का। ओके, तो इंट्रोडक्शन के बारे में हम डिस्कस कर रहे थे, तो हमने इतना तक आ गए हैं और ये लगभग लास्ट चैप्टर हम डिस्कस कर रहे हैं, लास्ट पार्ट में हम आ गए हैं। तो देखिए, द आइडिया ऑफ नेशनल इनकम, हम आइडिया ऑफ नेशनल इनकम ऑल्दो डिफरेंट फ्रॉम द ईच अदर ऑफ द इन सम वेज, द कॉन्सेप्ट ऑफ जीडीपी, एनडीपी, जीएनपी। ओके, इसके बारे में हम देखेंगे इस बार। ओके, ये भी देख लिया था, जीडीपी के बारे में भी देख लिया था। ओके ओके, ग्रॉस डोमेस्टिक प्रोडक्ट के बारे में, ठीक है, देख लीजिए तब भी। इज द वैल्यू ऑफ ऑल द फाइनल गुड्स and services product within the boundary of a nation during the 1 year period. For India, this calendar year is from the 1st April to 3rd March. It is also calculated by adding national and private consumption, gross investment and gross spending, and trade balance, exports, and imports, export minus imports. अब हम देखेंगे ए पार्ट। ओके, ओके, तो लेट स्टार्ट करते हैं। तो देख लीजिए, द यूज ऑफ एक्सपोर्ट्स माइनस इम्पोर्ट्स, हम डिस्कस कर रहे हैं जीडीपी के बारे में। जीडीपी, द यूज ऑफ एक्सपोर्ट्स माइनस इम्पोर्ट्स। ओके, फैक्टर रिमूव्स एक्सपेंडिचर्स। ओके, फैक्टर रिमूव्स एक्सपेंडिचर्स ऑन इम्पोर्ट्स नॉट प्रोड्यूस्ड इन द नेशन and adds expenditure of goods and service produced which are exported but not sold within the country. It will be better to understand the terms used in the concept gross, which means same thing in economics, and commerce as total means in mathematics. Okay, it will be better to understand understand the terms used in the concept gross, which means same thing in economics, and commerce as total means mathematics. Domestic means all economic activities done within the boundary of the nation, nation or country, and by its own capital. Product is used to define goods and services together, and final means and stage of product. Okay, product after which there is no known choices and value additions in it. The different uses of the concept of GDP as given below. Per annum percentage change in it is the growth rate of an economy. For example, if a country has GDP reaches 107, which is 7 rupees higher than the last year, it has the growth of 7%. And we use the term a growing economy. It means that the economy is adding up its income in quantitative terms. It is a quantitative concept, and its volume size indicates the internal strength of the economy. But it does not say anything about the qualitative aspects of the goods and services produced. It is used by the IMF WB in the comparative analysis of its member nation. NDP, net domestic product, is the GDP calculated after adjusting the weight of the value of depreciation. NDP, net domestic product, is the calculated the GDP after adjusting the weight of the value of depreciation. This is basically net form of the GDP, that is GDP minus the total value of the wear and tear. depreciation that happen in the assets while the goods and services are being produced. Every asset except human beings go for depreciation in the process of their uses, which means they wear and tear. The government of the economics decide and announce the rate by which assets depreciate done in India by the Ministry of Commerce and Industry, and a list of published which is used by different sections of the economy to determine the real levels of depreciation in different assets. For example, a residential house in India has a rate of 1% per annum depreciation. It has a rate of 1% per annum depreciation, and electric fan has 10% per annum, etc. Which is calculated in terms of asset price. This is one very how depreciation is used in economics. The other it is used in the external sector, while domestic currency fluctuates freely as against the foreign currency. It is the value if the value of the domestic country falling market mechanism in comparison to the foreign currency. It is a situation of depreciation in the domestic currency, calculated in terms of loss of value of domestic currency. Thus, NDP equals to GDP minus depreciation. Okay, thus this way NDP is NDP of an economy has to always lower than its GDP for the same year, since there is no way to cut the depreciation to zero. But mankind has achieved too much in this area, though developments such as ball bearing, lubricants, etc., all innovated to minimize the levels of depreciation. Different uses of the concept of NDP are as given below. For domestic use only, to show the achievements of the economy in the area of research and development, which have tried cutting the levels of depreciation in a historic time period. For domestic use only, to understand the historical situation of the loss due to depreciation into the economy, also use to understand and analyze the second situation of depreciation in industry and trade. Okay, in comparative periods. However, NDP is not used in comparative economics. That is to compare the economics in the world. Why this is so? This is due to different rates of depreciation, which is set by the different economics of the world. Rates of depreciation may be based on the logic as it is the best is the case of the India, case of House of India. The content, the cement, the bricks, sand, iron rods which are used to build houses in India can hasten it for the coming 200 years. Thus, rate of depreciation is fixed at 1% per annum, but it may not be based on the logic all the time. For example, up to February 2000, the rate of depreciation for heavy vehicles with 6 seats, 6 wheels and above was 20%, while it was the rest to 40% afterwards. To boost the sales and heavy vehicles in the country, there was no logic in doubling the rate. Basically, depreciation and its rates are also used to by modern government by tool of economic policy making, which is the third way how depreciation is used in the economics. The gross national product. The gross national product (GDP) is the GDP of a country added with its income from abroad. Here the transboundary economic activities of an economy is also taken into account. The items which are counted counted in the segment income from abroad, etc. Private remittance, okay, remittance, again, the net outcome of the money which inflows and outflows on account of the private transfer by Indian nationals working outside of India, and the foreign nationals working in India to their home countries. On the other hand, on this front, India has always been a gainer till the early 1990s from the Gulf region, where they fell down afterwards with the wake of the heavy country bound movement of the Indian working there due to Gulf War, and afterwards from the USA and other European nations. Today, India is the highest recipient of the private remittance in the world, as per the World Bank projected $72 billion in 2015. In 2013, it was 70 billion. This is the year's highest. China falls second to 64 billion. Interest of the external loans. The loan outcomes of the front of the interest payments, okay, balance of inflows on the money lent out by the economy, and outflow on the money borrowed by the economy of the external interest in India. In India's case, okay, it always been in negative, as the economy has been in need borrowed from the world economics. External grants. The net outcomes of the external grants, that is the balance of such grants, which rose to flows to and from India. Today, India offers more such grants than it receives. Okay, India receives grants on or loan grants. Okay, next, the few countries as well as United Nations bodies, and offers several developmental and humanitarian grants to foreign nation. In the wake of globalization, grants outflows from the India has increased as its economic diplomacy aims at playing bigger role in the international level. Ultimately, the balance of all the three components of the income from abroad, okay, segment may turn out to the positive or negative. In India's case, it has always been negative due to heavy outflows on account of trade deficits, okay, and interest payments on foreign loans. Okay, it means the income from abroad, okay, it's subtraced from the India's GDP. To calculate the GNP. The normal formula is GNP equals to GDP plus income from abroad. Okay, the normal formula is GNP equals to GDP plus income from abroad. Again, GNP equals to GDP plus income from abroad. GDP plus income from abroad, but it becomes GNP equal to GDP plus income from abroad, but it becomes GNP equal to GDP plus minus income from abroad. Okay, that is GDP minus income from abroad. In the case of India, this means that India's GNP is always lower than its GDP. The different uses of the concept of GNP are as given below. This is the normal national income according to which the IMF ranks the nations of the world in terms of volumes at purchasing power for parity. For detailed discussion on PPP, please see chapter 24. India is ranked as the third largest economy of the world after China and the USA. Well, as for the nominal prevailing exchange of rupee, India is the seventh largest economy. IMF April 2016. Now such comparisons are done using the GDP too. It is more accessible concept of national income than the GDP, as it indicates toward the quantitative as well as the qualitative aspects of the economy, that is the internal as well as the external strength of the economy. It enables us to learn the several factors about the production behavior and the pattern of the economy, such as how much the outside world is dependent on its product, okay, and how much it depends on the walls for the same shown by the size and net flows. Okay, net flow of the private remittance. What position it holds, recognizing regarding financial sector support from the world economics shown by the net flows of interest on external lending. NNP, net national product, is an economy of an economy is a GDP after deducting the loss due to depreciation. The formula to derive its may be written like NNP equal to net national product equal to GNP minus depreciation. NNP equals to GDP plus income from abroad minus depreciation. This is the national income of an economy. Okay. Though the GDP, NDP, and GNP are all the national income, they are not written with the constitution capitalized N and I. This is the pattern, purest form of the income of the nation. When we divide NNP by the total population of a nation, we get the per capita income of that nation. Okay, income per head per year. A very basic point should be noted here that this is the point where the rates of depreciation followed by different nations make a difference. Higher the rates of depreciation, lower the per capita income of the nation, whatever by the reasons for its logical and or artificial edge in the case of depreciation being used as a tool of policy making. Though economics are free to fix any rate of the depreciation for different assets, the rates fixed by them make difference when the NI, national income of the nations, are compared by the international financial institutions like the IMF, WB, World Bank, ADB. The base year together with the methodology for calculating the national accounts were revised by the Central Statistics Office in January 2016, which is given the forthcoming page. Even in the forthcoming pages, the base year together the methodology for calculating the national accounts were revised by the Central Statistics Office in January 2015, which was given in the forthcoming page. Cost and price of national income. Okay. Cost and price of national income. While calculating national income and the issues related to cost and price also need to be decided. Basically, there are two sets of the cost and prices, and an economy needs to choose at which of the two costs and two prices it will calculate its national income. Let us understand the confusion and the relevance of the confusion of this confusion. Cost, income of an economy, that is the value of the total produced goods and services. It may be calculated at either the factor cost or the market cost. Okay, now what is the difference between them? The basically factor cost is the input cost, and the producer has the incur in the process of producing something. Okay, input cost producer has the incur in the process of producing something, that is capital, such as the cost of capital, interest on loans from raw materials, labor, rent, power, etc. This is also termed as factory price or production cost. This is nothing but price of the commodity from the producer side, while the market cost is derived after adding the interest taxes also to the factor cost. After adding the interest taxes, indirect taxes to the factor cost of the production, it means the cost at which goods reach the market. That is showrooms. That is the These are the central exercise, okay, CENVAT, central excise, and the CST, which are paid by the producers to the central government in India. This is also known as the ex-factory price. The weight of the state taxes are then added to it to finally derive the market cost. In general, they are also called factor price, and market price. In India, officially used to calculate its national income at factor cost, though the data at market cost was also released, which were used for other purposes by the governments, commerce and industry. Since January 2015, the CS has switched over the calculating the market price, that is the market cost. The market cost is calculated by adding the product taxes, generally taken indirect taxes of the center and the states to the factor cost. This way, India has not switched over the popular international fee practice. Once the proposed GST get implemented, it will be easier for India to calculate the national income and market price. In India income can be derived at two prices: constant and current. The difference in the constant and current price is only that the impact of inflation is considered standstill at a year of the past. This year of the past is also known as base year. In the case of constant price, when the current price present inflation is added, current price is basically the maximum level return price. Okay, when you see printed on the goods selling in the market as per the new guidelines, the base year in India has been revised from the 2045 to 1112. India calculates the national income at the constant price. So it is the situation among other developing economies. While the developed nations calculate it at the current price, though for statistical purpose of the CS also releases the national income data at current price. Why? Basically, inflation has been a challenging aspect of policy making in India because of its level range in wage is downlands instability. Okay, in such situation, growth in the income levels of the population living below the poverty line can never be measured accurately. Okay, due to higher inflation, the section will show higher income, and the government will never be able to measure the real impact of its poverty alleviation program. Okay, here one important aspect of the income needs to be understood. Income of the person has been three forms. Okay, the first forms is nominal income, the wage someone gets in hand per day, per month. The second form, real income. This is nominal income minus the present rate of inflation. This is the nominal income minus present day of the rate of inflation adjusted in percentage form. And the last one is the disposable income, the net part of the wage. One is free to use, which is derived after deducting the direct tax from the direct tax from the real or nominal income. Depending upon the need of data, what happens in practice is that while the nominal income might have increased by only 5%, it looks 15% if the inflation is at the 10% level. Unlike India and the developed nations, inflation has been around 2% for many decades. It means it has been at lower levels and stable. This is why a difference between the incomes at constant and current price. Among them are narrow and the calculated national income at current price they get more reliable and realistic data of the income, taxes and national income. While accounting calculating national income, the taxes, direct and indirect tax collected by the government needs to be considered. In the case of India, to the extent of direct tax, individual income tax, corporate income tax, that is the corporate tax, okay, dividend tax, interest tax, etc. are concerned. There is no need to adjust and whether the national income is accounted as factor cost or market cost. National income is accounted as factory cost, factor cost, or market cost. This is so because at both the cost they have to be the same. Besides, these taxes are collected at the income or of source of the concerned person of groups. What the amount of indirect tax? Okay, sin, VAT, custom, central sales tax, VAT, excise, etc. need to be taken into account of the national income. Is accounted for at factory cost, which is the case of India. If the national income is calculated at factor cost, then the corpus of the total indirect tax need to be deducted from it. This is because indirect taxes have been added twice, once at the point of the people group who pay these taxes from their disposable income while purchasing things from the market, and again at the point of the government as their income are received. Collection source of indirect taxes are the disposable income which individuals and companies have with them after paying their direct tax. From which they do any purchasing, and finally the indirect tax reach the government. Thus, if the national income is calculated at factor cost, the formula is to seek will be national income or factor cost equal to NNP at market cost minus indirect taxes. However, if the national income is being derived at the market cost, the indirect tax do not need to be deducted from it. In the case of the government do not have to add their income occurring from indirect tax to the national income. It means that the confusion in the case of national income occurring at factor cost is only related to indirect taxes, subsidies and national income. Similar of the indirect tax, the various subsidies which are forwarded by the government need to adjusted while calculating national income. They are added to the national income at market cost. In the case of India, subsidies are added in the national income at market cost to derive the national income at factory cost. This is because the price at which subsidized goods and services are made available by the government are not their real factor cost. Subsidies are forwarded on the factor cost of the goods and services. Otherwise, we will have a distorted value which will be less than its real value. Formula: national income of factor cost equal to NNP at the market price plus subsidies, market cost plus subsidy. If the national income is derived if the national income is derived at the market cost and the government forward or no subsidy, there is no need to adjustment for subsidy. But after all, there is not a single share economy in the world today which doesn't follow subsidy is one of them. One of other. on the other from putting in indirect taxes and subsidies to the India's national income will thus be derived with the following formula. National income at factor cost is equal to NNP at market cost minus indirect tax plus subsidies. Revision of the base year and method of the national income accounting. The Central Statistics Office in January 2015 released the new and revised data of the national account affecting two changes: base year and methodology. The base was revised from 2004-5 to 11-12. This was done according with the recommendation of the National Statistical Commission, which had advised to revise the base year of all economic indices every 5 years. This time is the methodology of calculating the national account has also been revised in line with the requirements of the system of national accounts with 2008 and internationally accepted standard. The major changes incorporated in the revision, given the headline growth rate will now be measured by GDP at constant market price, which will henceforth be referred to as GDP as it is practiced internationally. Earlier growth measured in terms of the growth rate GDP at factor cost at constant price. Sector-wise estimates of growth gross value added will now be given at basic prices instead of factor cost. The relationship between GDP at factor cost, GDP at basic price, and GDP at market prices is given below. GDP at basic prices C plus OS MI S plus CFSC plus production taxes less production subsidies. Okay, GBA at factor cost equals to GBA at basic prices minus production taxes less production subsidies. GBA plus GBA at basic prices plus product taxes minus product subsidies. C compensation of employees is operating surplus. MI mixed income. CFC consumption of fixed capital. Production taxes and production subsidies are paid or revised with the relation with productions again. Some example production taxes: land revenues, stamps, and registration fees, tax on profession, some production subsidies and subsidies up to railways, input subsidies to farmers, subsidies to village small industry, administrative subsidies to corporations or cooperatives, etc. Product tax and or subsidies are paid or received on per unit of the product. Some examples of the product taxes are excise tax. Okay, excise tax, sales tax, sales tax and import and export tax. Product subsidies include goods, petroleum, fertilizer. Okay. Product subsidies include petroleum, fertilizer. Yes, interest subsidies given to farmers, household, etc. Through bank, and subsidies for providing insurance to household at lower rates. Comprehensive coverage of the corporate sector, both in manufacturing and services, by incorporation of annual accounts of companies as filed with the Ministry of Corporate Affairs under the e-governance initiative MCA 21, use of MCA 21 database for manufacturing companies has helped in accounting for activities other than manufacturing undertaken by these companies. Comprehensive coverage of the financial sector by inclusion of information from the accounts of stock brokers, stock exchanges, asset management companies, mutual funds and pension funds, and the regulatory bodies including the Securities and Exchange Board of India, SEBI, Pension Fund Regulatory and Development Authority, and Insurance Regulatory and Development Authority, improved coverage of activities of local bodies and autonomous, okay, institution covering around 60% of the grants transfer provided to this institution. Okay, income estimates 2016-17 GDP. CSO on January 26, 2017. Economic Survey 2016-17. Union budget 2017 based on some data. GDP 7.1, okay, down from 6.16. GDP to 15-16. Okay, is current price. GDP at current price is 151.913 lakh crore. From growth rate 11.9%. The gross value added a basic constant price. So 11-12 is estimated at the 1000. So growth 5.6%, 6.2%. Okay, at current price. So that's why the chapter is complete. Okay. Thank you, friends. So thank you.